Wes Anderson's filmography and approach to directing have been the topic of much heated discussion over the last few years. As his career has progressed, he has been accused of becoming too self-referential, limiting himself to the confines of his meticulous style. Many believe his films have lost their sentimentality, their emotional spark, as they've been buried under layers of unflinching symmetry and deadpan line deliveries. But for me, Wes remains to be a director of resounding humanity. The rigidity of his films are undercut with the richness of emotional experience, as he often captures our most base yearnings, hopes, worries, and melancholies with simple ease. It doesn't take much, but his simple lines of dialogue pack a punch when least expected, taking a break from stoic inflexibility to press tightly on our weakest spots. Whether it's the profound existentialism of Fantastic Mr. Fox, the quiet tragedy of Bottle Rocket, the timid romance of Moonrise Kingdom, or the healed ties of The Royal Tenenbaums, Wes Anderson's works tap into every aspect of our human experience. But his most life-affirming film isn't one that's widely discussed. It's often shunned to the bottom of people's rankings, dismissed as too wrapped up in its own Wes Anderson-ness. But for me, it's the jade and azure-toned Darjeeling Limited, with all of its heavyweight melancholia and featherlight hope, that remains his most life-affirming film, as when I first watched it, it changed my life.
Okay, alright, let's check the itinerary.
The Darjeeling Limited was a film that came relatively early on in Anderson's career, releasing in 2007 after the lukewarm release of The Life Aquatic of Steve Zissou in 2004, and right before the immense success of Fantastic Mr. Fox in 2009. It was well received at the time, winning the Little Golden Lion Award at the 2007 Venice Film Festival. Critics called it Anderson's best work to date, which handled his usual styles and methods with a startling new maturity. The Darjeeling Limited fit nicely into the neatly checked pattern of Anderson's filmography, retreading familiar paths concerning family ties, grief, and regaining a lust for life. The film follows the story of three brothers, Peter, played by Adrian Brody, Jack, played by Jason Schwartzman, and Francis, Owen Wilson, who reunite a year after the passing of their father. Francis has booked them onto the Darjeeling Limited train, desperate for the three to reconcile after he had a near-fatal crash. There is also a secret motive for arranging this trip, as Francis hopes the three can reunite with their mother, who ran away to the Himalayan mountains to become a nun after her husband passed. This is kept an initial secret from the other two, as there is a heaviness there. Their mother never actually turned up to their father's funeral. Its visuals are decadent and rustic, with the beauty of India's spiritual side lending the film dashes of colour. It's made atmospheric and rebellious by Anderson's signature choice in music, the jangling rhythms of 60s British rock bands like The Kinks and the Rolling Stones. Anderson also opts for the music of Bengali filmmaker Satyajit Ray, who inspired him to come to India. When I think of the film, I think of its lightness, the humanity which rolls and waves throughout its visuals like an undercurrent. It's so easy to connect to, with the cosy nights on the train, the clack of the wheels, the heat of the burning sun. Whilst it fit the familiar motifs that Anderson loved to connect to, the Darjeeling Limited became more than just another version of the Royal Tenenbaums. It became a spiritual experience. Whilst I do find his later works to be complex where they ought not to be, the Darjeeling Limited is simple. The dialogue is simple. The emotion is stark, and whilst there is lightness and parallel and static, it allows us to pause to soak up the emotion Anderson has offered to us. And we can thank the three brothers for this.
Let's look at the itinerary.
Fuck the itinerary.
Peter, Jack, and Francis are stark reminders of the family ties we have in our own lives. For instance, I have two siblings, and part of the reason why I love the Darjeeling Limited is that it captures, for me, what sibling relationships feel like. There's the highs, the goofy moments where you lie in bed and talk and play while the world feels far away. There's the lows, the moments where you have to be with them through thick and thin, make promises to do whatever you need to help them. And then there's the moments where you want to whack them with a belt and mace them in the face.
Hurting me!
That's what having a sibling is like. Francis, like me, is the eldest. Coming off of the back of an immense motorcycle crash, he sports various bandages and bruises, as well as a fake tooth he often takes out.
Please forgive this.
His dedication to reuniting with his brothers dominates the film. He has his own laminated itinerary of activities for them to try, constantly begging for his siblings to open themselves up to the experience.
I want us to become brothers again like we used to be.
Taking on the parental role, he demonstrates his care for Peter and Jack by ordering their food for them.
Peter, the lamb, chicken, a fish, and a lamb.
Already aware of what they want to eat. He also makes agreements with them,
Let's make an agreement.
which are little promises the three must uphold together. His need for unity is striking, indicating something deeper is driving his intense emotions. Peter is the middle child. He He's clearly weary with responsibility as he reveals to Jack at the start of the trip that his wife is about to give birth.
Trying not to get too caught up in it right now.
He's very connected to their late father, as his brother notices that he possesses some of his various personal effects.
Are these Dad's keys?
Peter even wears his father's glasses with his exact lenses in. There's an edginess to him, as his unhealthy ways of dealing with grief include buying a venomous snake to keep on board.
How much you want for him?
And stealing from his brothers.
Is that my belt?
Jack is the youngest brother. He's fraught by a past relationship that he can't quite shake, which is also the subject of Wes Anderson's short film that preceded the film, called Hotel Chevalier. His immaturity rebounds around the film, as he makes the time to check his ex-girlfriend's messages.
He's got the code to his ex-girlfriend's answering machine.
And channels his agony into pursuing an attendant on the train called Rita, played by Amara Karan.
I want that stewardess.
He is the lone wolf of the pack, sleeping separately from his brother's bunk bed and shying away when the two of them fight.
Stop including me.
His unhealthy tendencies to subconsciously hurt himself evoke deep empathy from us, and from his brothers who rally around to help him. Each of the brothers are identifiable parts within many family units, but more broadly, they're identifiable within ourselves. I myself resonate with Francis's urges to protect his siblings, alongside his meticulous planning habits, but that's definitely an older sibling thing.
Actually, it's in the itinerary, but I put it under TBD.
Vastly different to one another, they are jumbled together on this trip around India, forcing themselves to connect after a huge amount of time apart. However, they are bound by another strong force alongside family ties, something much more weighty and crushing: grief.
I wonder if the three of us could have been friends in real life.
Grief has its own language within each of us. It can make our tongues sharp, venomous, and unforgiving. It can make our eyes misty with tears. It can make our limbs useless and weak. It can make our minds torturous and cruel. Like a common cold, it appears similar in some, and at the same time vastly different in others. For a few, it's a sneeze, sudden, abrupt, rupturing. For others, it's an all-over malaise, unassailable, undefined, unbearable. Grief is one of the defining features of the film's narrative, that yearning, hankering disease for someone that is no longer around and yet haunts your story with the mere memory of who they were to you, what they stood for. The Darjeeling Limited never lets the grief overcome its characters. It does something worse. It hovers just beyond the fringes of their everyday lives, their casual conversations, and their casual meals. And each brother finds himself firmly planted in a unique point on the spectrum of grief.
You want to read a short story I wrote in France?
Jack's grief becomes a toxic force that turns him on himself without him even realising it. He is wrapped up and consumed by his toxic relationship, which dangles in front of him with the possibilities of reunion and reconnection. Throughout the film, Jack can be seen wearing a yellow bathrobe from the hotel he meets his ex-girlfriend in. This cycle he locks himself into is literally wearing him, cocooning him in misery. After checking his messages, he slumps dejectedly, saying,
I don't feel good about myself.
to his brothers. Just like many unhealthy coping mechanisms, Jack is aware of how bad it is for him, and yet it gives him a way to channel his pain.
She be gaslighting you?
What's gaslighting?
He carries around a bottle of perfume from his ex-girlfriend, which the brothers agreed to break.
I think we should destroy that.
However, the smell lingers around him for the remainder of the film.
That smell.
Voltaire number 6.
He then projects this toxicity onto Rita, an attendant on the train, whom he begins what is essentially an affair with her, as she has a boyfriend.
I have a boyfriend.
You do?
Their series of one-off flings is Jack's desperate attempts to shield himself from his pain, as their relationship is purely physical.
Beautiful.
In one scene, Jack asks Rita to talk with him as he feels she
Be very important to me in my life.
When we cut back to Rita once more, the mirror in the background reveals her dress to slip to her lower back, revealing Jack's true intentions. When they finally part when the brothers are forced off the train, Jack thanks Rita for using him,
Thanks for using me.
recognising that their relationship was created from the same purpose. Two lonely people, desperate to find a way to resolve their grief and melancholia, vented it all into the other, with nothing truly being resolved. However, there is also a naive innocence to Jack's grief, which spills from his creativity. In another attempt to separate himself from his emotions, Jack shows his brothers several short stories he has written, both about his fling with his ex and the death of their father. Upon Peter and Francis's comments that the funeral of their father happened differently in their minds,
Well, I'm not too crazy about the part where I start screaming at the mechanic.
Jack insists.
The characters are all fictional.
By fictionalising this historic day in their lives, Jack is attempting to create a disparity between his pain and his reality. And of course, why would someone want to feel a grief as deep as theirs?
Here's your bell.
Peter's grief is a lot more subtle, a lot more buried under the skin. He lacks his brother's immediate impulsivity, choosing to keep his feelings to himself. In one of the film's earliest scenes, after reading Jack's short story about the funeral, Peter removes himself from their meal, going to cry silently in the bathroom whilst reading the story. And when Francis later reveals that he has been in contact with their mother, Peter quietly remarks,
I'm gonna hold this in for a little while.
There is a significant disconnect between Peter and his brothers as Peter's grief forces him apart from them. Equally, with the birth of his child incoming, he has gone halfway across the world just to be away from the possibility of everything he knows changing or even going wrong.
I guess because I always expected eventually I'll get divorced.
Unlike Jack, who wishes to disassociate entirely from their shared trauma, Peter keeps his close to home. It is revealed that he has begun to take from those around him, at one point stealing and wearing Francis's belt.
You know, I think I'm gonna have to get that belt back after all.
And, as I mentioned earlier, he also wears his father's glasses with the same prescription in them.
Are those Dad's glasses?
Yeah.
Peter's tendencies to steal reflect his wishes to channel his heaviest of emotions into something dangerous, something risky. But the brazenness of his decision to wear them in front of his brothers suggests something stronger, that it is a cry for help. He is unable to free himself from the past, literally trying to see through the eyes of their late father. As he is about to enter the cycle of fatherhood himself, Peter has become nostalgia-laden, clinging to the image of his father and not ready to become one himself.
We haven't located us yet.
Francis's grief, at first, seems subtle. He sports a significant number of bandages and plasters across his face, a sign that indicates healing and recovery. He mentions that his crash has motivated him to unite with his brothers, even saying that,
First thing I thought of when I woke up was I wish Peter and Jack were here.
However, Francis approaches their potential of unity with an almost manic energy. His brothers joke that his brain might be pretty traumatized,
I don't know about his face, but I think his brain might be pretty traumatized.
as he's constantly referring to their itinerary and planning more and more for them to do.
Train stops first thing tomorrow morning for an hour and 45 minutes.
When he's not doing this, he's checking in with his assistant Brendan, trying to find out if their mum even wants to see them.
Call her again right now and keep calling every 10 minutes until you get through.
He gives himself the mammoth task of never sitting still, never finding peace, and parenting his brothers into oblivion.
Yes.
Whilst Francis appears to be parental in nature and in control of his emotions, the sense of leadership slips somewhat towards the end. In the airport before they are set to leave for America, Francis finally lets himself feel his grief and removes his bandages in front of the mirror.
Can I use those scissors?
Revealing his scarred, battered and bloodied face, he announces that,
I guess I've still got some more healing to do.
and when they later decide to visit their mother despite her wishes, Francis tells the truth about his accident.
I smashed into a hill on purpose on my motorcycle.
This revelation allows us to view Francis in a whole new light as someone who has worn his sense of control like a shield. He needed to appear present for his brothers, needed to be their rock like he always has been. But his wounds haven't gone away, his grief hasn't passed no matter how much he pretended it had. Suddenly, his incessant planning and scheming all clicks into place. His grief almost cost him his life, and so now he seeks to chase the life he almost lost. His grief frames his face with battle scars, and as he shows his face to his brothers with its extensive damage, he can now finally grieve as they do. He can now feel his vulnerability as they do.
Anyway, it's definitely gonna add a lot of character to you.
Throughout their trip, the brothers try whatever they can to numb their grief and force the spiritual connection Francis is desperate for. They try everything, from sharing the strongest Indian painkillers they can get to comically misinterpreting a spiritual exercise involving feathers.
It's not supposed to get blown away, you're supposed to blow on it.
But it is ultimately their grief which binds them, when they choose to address it. And, in one of the film's most shocking moments, they are forced to address it and to come together to grieve once more.
Can you explain that I almost had him?
After being kicked off the train for their disruptive behaviour which includes Peter's venomous snake getting loose, Peter and Francis getting into a physical fight,
You don't love me! Yes, I do!
Jack using pepper spray on them,
I love you too, but I'm gonna mace you in the face! Stop!
and then breaking a train window. The brothers make their way to the airport. On their way, they walk alongside a river before spotting 3 young boys attempting to drag some supplies across the water. However, the contraption they are using snaps, and all 3 boys are catapulted into the water. Francis, Peter, and Jack rush into the river, each gravitating towards a boy and trying to pull him from the water. However, there is a loud noise, and the raft they were using overturns on Peter. In this moment, all we hear is a rush of a pounding heart, and Jack running towards Peter, who stumbles out of the water, covered in blood. He holds the limp form of the boy he tried to save, who he says is dead.
Peter, you okay?
I didn't save mine.
This tonal change is unexpected, unprecedented, and unforgettable. It's a symbolic moment, representative of Peter's own inner child that he's unable to save. About to be a father, he has failed to save the life of a child he fought so hard to recover, and the brothers are forced to confront yet another loss. Afterwards, they are invited to the funeral, where they are surrounded by small children, mothers who scream and cry, and a father who collapses under the weight of his loss. It is a cyclical moment of grief. The emotion that the three have tried so hard to avoid has now been forced upon them. However, it is this moment that allows them to confront their withheld emotion. The funeral is a passage of rebirth for the three, a cathartic experience which harkens back to the funeral of their father.
Yeah, he didn't get the message. Mr. Whitman is dead, you understand?
After the memories flood back to Peter, Jack and Francis, they can now begin to process their sadness, their losses. It is this moment where grief, such an unfortunate necessity in life, sets them free for the film's final act.
Good morning.
She's gone.
The final act of The Darjeeling Limited is one that I have come to savour. It's a film that I try not to watch too often because I never want its effect on me to tire. It is where Wes Anderson unites his characters, his audience, with the promise of hope when a train has run out of track. After deciding to visit their mum against her wishes, the three brothers are reunited with her for the first time in a year.
Welcome, my beautiful boys.
Patricia, being played by Angelica Houston, is leading a whole new life as a nun in a Himalayan Christian convent. We see a lot of Patricia in each of the boys. She orders their food for them, just like Francis.
Who wants scrambled eggs? Raise your hand.
She clearly runs from her responsibilities, just like Peter.
But why didn't you come to Dad's funeral?
And she's impulsive with her decisions, just like Jack.
She's not coming. She didn't get on the plane.
The evening they arrive, they confront their mother for not coming to the funeral. When asked why she didn't turn up, she simply says,
Because I didn't want to.
Much like her sons, Patricia is content to avoid her grief in the most remote forms she can. She dismisses their agonies, saying,
But it's over, isn't it?
To which Francis replies,
Not for us.
It is in this moment when, confronting their mother, who has disassociated entirely from her own loss, that the brothers can acknowledge that their grief is real and shouldn't be ignored. It allows them to realise that they need to break their cycle of grief, even if it is a hard-to-break habit formed from their parents' own decisions and actions.
Maybe it relates to how we were raised.
Similarly, there's a lot of heartbreak in this reunion, as when the brothers ask why their mum is at the convent, she replies,
I live here. These people need me.
to which Jack replies,
What about us?
She abdicates her parental duties, saying,
I don't know the answers to these questions, and I don't see myself this way.
and instead opting for them to look at one another, to communicate how they truly feel. As the four stare at one another, in Patricia's face we see teary-eyed wistfulness. In Francis, we see surety and calm. In Peter, we see disoriented fear. And in Jack, we see a furious severity. In this powerful moment of distilled confrontation, the brothers face their mother with the barest of emotions, and it's something of a four-way mirror. Each person in the family is bound by a grief they have ignored, buried, ran away from, and dismissed, but the brothers have a choice: follow in the footsteps of their mother, or live truthfully in spite of their grief. They wake up the next morning to find their breakfast outside, and their mother gone, and their choice is made. Rather than lie dormant to their grief, they set off, ready to take their next train. But this time, they've changed. In possibly my favourite film scene ever, the brothers begin to run for their train, bags in hand. Suddenly Francis says,
Bags aren't gonna make it!
and there's a beat of fear. A lifetime of memories flash before their eyes, our eyes, and there's a moment where we think they can never let go, that we can never let go. And then, they let go of their father's luggage, they let go of their father, and they board the second train together, as one. I have never felt so gratified to have experienced a moment like this in film. I have never felt such life-affirming joy as when I first watched the brothers leave their physical and metaphorical luggage behind, ready to re-enter their lives as free people, at one with their grief and with who they are to one another. Wes Anderson infuses this moment with a sense of sunlit courage, of relief and release and all the good things that come with changing who you are for the better. It is in this moment that Peter, Jack and Francis are there with you, and they're ready to help you let go.
Let's go get a drink and smoke a cigarette.
Paradoxically, as a film critic, I sometimes find watching movies hard because they have to let you go at some point. TV shows I find easier because you can stretch them out for as long as you want, return to them for lunch or for a midnight chat. When you start a film, they will always have to let you go, and quickly. I mentioned at the start of this video that this film changed my life, and I wasn't lying to you. On the day I watched it, I was blindsided by a significant loss that altered everything for me, left me sitting there with the controller in my hand and this feeling of, what am I going to do now that this has happened to me? But I was happy that the Darjeeling Limited had to end, had to let me go, because I left it behind knowing I could return to it any time I needed, to feel my grief with Francis, Peter and Jack, and to know that I shouldn't be ashamed to feel it. To know that grieving was hard, horrible, disgusting, sickening, and all those other nasty words, but to know that it was necessary to feel it, so that I could live truthfully and fully.